Because in one day, for 4 days straight, more than 10,000 people download the map every day. Next slide. So what do we do? Avoid building on top of it. The picture on the top shows a house built on top of the fault, so it got split. So even if it did not collapse, then things might have fallen down. If you're affected by it, you might die. No? You lose your property. But anyway, if you have a very wide line of land, just move your property a little bit and you'll be okay. As long as you construct your house to resist a strong ground shaking. Look at that photo below. You see a house, and the cliff behind it is the North Bohol Fault that moved in 2013. Less than 10 meters, but the house is still standing because it was not placed on top and it was built using light materials. Next slide. Ground shaking is the most important hazard. If the Valley Fault would move, and if you're in Metro Manila, you would know that it would have moved if you felt the vertical motion up and down first, and after a while, horizontal shaking. If you feel only a horizontal shaking, the epicenter is at least 50 kilometers away from us. If you don't hear me speak about it, and if you felt the vertical motion, that's the West Valley Fault. Okay? Dila, pag hindi nyo na ako marinig, yun na yun. West Valley Fault siya. What is the implication? Then you would expect strong aftershocks so that you need to get out of the building, not up, but get down and out of the building after the main shock. Next slide. What happens during a strong shaking? Buildings can collapse or things inside will fall down. So if you have a contact center organization, your computers are very important. Okay? Next slide. Now this is the scenario. If the star there is the epicenter, I have two maps shown in front of you. The one on the left is a magnitude 7.2 earthquake. The one on the right is a magnitude 6.5 earthquake. The same epicenter. But please note, the one on the left would have many brown and yellow colored areas, meaning these areas will be affected by intensity 8 ground shaking. That is a very severe ground shaking where you cannot stand anymore. But this map would have an implication. Those in the green zone, we expect less damage, like Clark Air Base can be used for landing search and rescue. Okay? So next slide. Okay, now push it forward. You would see an intensity 8 shaking in the movie clip that will be shown. Okay, you will see these two persons transacting business and then they stop. They felt the vertical motion and then suddenly the horizontal shaking would follow and there they cannot stand anymore. And that would be an intensity 8 shaking. Do you want to experience this? Again in this movie clip? So let's repeat. Please note that they cannot stand. Okay? That's intensity 8 shaking. The building did not collapse, but things inside will all move. The tables will move, everything will move. So, next, what do you need to do? Next na po. What do you need to do? If this is the expected shaking, we need to understand how many buildings will collapse. Hopefully, those will be not ours. If there is a magnitude 7.2 earthquake, 13% of the residential buildings will be heavily damaged or collapsed. Mid-rise buildings, 11%, public buildings, 10%, and only 2% very high-rise buildings. If the earthquake happens in the evening, around 33,000 will die, assuming all people have went back to their houses, and more than 100,000 injured. Our bed capacity for hospitals is maybe 50,000 or less. We don't have enough. So we need to make sure that we don't get injured. Or make sure that buildings and houses don't collapse. Fire will happen during the earthquake itself. Next slide. In a recent study by FIVOX and Geoscience Australia, the other study was FIVOX, MMDA, and JICA, we also simulated the effect of an earthquake by looking at a possible 7.2 or a magnitude 6.5. Please note that even at 6.5, the death is 23,000, and the 7.2 is 31,000, still a lot. And the cost of replacing the houses and buildings will be 2.3 trillion pesos for 7.2 magnitude earthquake, and that's the whole budget of government in 1 year. So, economically, we'll be impacted. So after the earthquake, if we don't do anything, we will be impacted, people will die, and economically, we will be hard hit. Okay? So we need to prepare for this. Magnitude 6.5, we have 1.8 trillion pesos needed to recover these houses and buildings. Next slide. Now, if you want to know, and I'm sure your houses are all okay, but the big problem here in the country and many other countries is that certain percentages of houses are non-engineered, meaning these were constructed without the guidance of engineers. So FIVOX, Association of Structural Engineers of the Philippines, and JICA put out a guidance and survey questionnaire where you are asked to rate every question 1 or 0, and each question pertains to a specific aspect that will make a house resistant to an earthquake. Example number 6 there is the width of the hollow blocks that you use for your exterior wall. Building code dictates that it should have a minimum of 6 inches, but there are still many houses with 4 inches. Okay, so you score every question 1 or 0, and at the end of the questionnaire you sum it up. If your score is 11 to 12, you're good. If it's below 8, then you have to really consult a specialist because this is disturbing. And we tested this instrument during the Bohol earthquake. All those that collapsed scored below 8. Okay, next slide. What do you do during an earthquake? Have you done all this drop, cover, and hold approach? Nakapag-drill na po ba kayo? Hindi pa? It's very easy. You just hide beneath the table. And then you hold the table, because if you don't hold the table will move away from you. So remember the phrase, drop, cover, and hold. Okay? If you don't remember that, then think of another phrase that you would really remember. Under the table. The only under the table activity allowed is during the earthquake. Okay? If there is no table, then you go to the safest part of the building, like posts and beams, inside corners, where this would be the most structurally strong part of the building. And squat or kneel and cover your head and nape with your hands. If you have a chair, in Tagalog, ang magbuhat ng sariling bangko mayabang, but during the earthquake, it would be okay. Okay? I usually don't sit below chandeliers. But don't worry, there will be no earthquake yet. Okay? Just keep watch of things above you so that when there's an earthquake, you avoid it. Next slide. Next slide. Liquefaction is another hazard that can affect people in terms of their property. Soft grounds behave like quicksand, where buildings can subside or tilt. Next slide. Bridge foundations can subside, and the biggest problem to respond to an earthquake would be roads getting fissured. Okay? So you don't expect you can use your 4 wheels to drive around. Better if you have your Cadillac, you just walk, or your bicycle or your motorcycle. Because we don't expect roads to be used immediately after the earthquake in liquefaction-prone areas. Next slide. The red zone there would be the liquefaction-prone areas. This will be along the Marikina Valley, the coastal cities of Manila. Okay, this building will not be in the liquefaction-prone zone. This is made up of adobe, the foundation, so we're okay. Next slide. Now, during the earthquake or immediately after it, fire will be a big problem. All those colored pixels there would be points where fire can start. And so we envision 500 points where fire can start, and we don't have enough fire trucks to answer those. So what's the solution? Not to start the fire. Make sure that we don't have as many fires as envisioned in this scenario. Next slide. Immediately after earthquake, and this will be a segue to what MMDA will do later, would be we have to envision that Metro Manila, immediately after the earthquake, will be immobilized. You cannot go from one place to another. Imagine Pasig River from east to west. If bridges crossing it are not used, cannot be used, then you cannot go from Makati to Mandaluyong or vice versa. Those along the western side of Manila, you have a lot of debris because there are many old buildings there. Roads can be fissured and fire can happen. They cannot be moving around. Those across Marikina River, like Pasig and Marikina, will also not be able to move to the western side because of possible bridge effects. So therefore, we need to envision that Metro Manila can be subdivided into several zones, into zones of immobility. The original version of the slide is regional separation. Unfortunately, when people translate this to Tagalog, mahahati. Pag binalik sa English yung mahahati, it will be divided. So physically, people think there will be a gap in between these different places. No, there will be no gap, just mobility issue. So we have to assign people where to go immediately after the earthquake. From north to the north side, from the south to the south side, and either to the west and east side. Next slide. So this will be my framework so that you can understand what MMDA will do. We have proposed more than 130 action plans, and the action plans are subdivided into 6 major goals. But let me enumerate the goals where you can really participate. We need to make sure that the business system is resistant to earthquake effects. The contact center is a very important industry of the country, so that we need to make sure that you're earthquake resistant. And to be earthquake resistant, you have to have your systems, your personnel safe. Second, improve the resiliency of structures, houses, and buildings from strong shaking and fire. Number 3, enhance the current risk and emergency management. You're on your own immediately after the earthquake. So you need to make sure that you're able to help your organization or your office mates, or if you're back in your own houses, your co-villagers, your fellow members of the barangay. Number 4, enhance community disaster management. And that is not only in the villages, but also in your companies. Formulation of reconstruction plan is important, but that will be the role of NDRMC or MMDA. We have to have a reconstruction plan already before the earthquake would happen, so that the repeat of the Yolanda experience will not recur. Okay. Now, I think those would be my last slides. Let me end by stating the following messages. Key messages are as follows. We cannot avoid being affected by hazards from time to time. We're in the Philippines. If you're a Filipino, you're at least supposed to feel one earthquake in your lifetime. Hopefully not a strong one. Okay? A large earthquake, if we want to really prepare for it, and if you're here in Manila, we need to look at the valley fault system as the source of a strong ground shaking that can severely affect Metro Manila, while the Manila Trench is the source of a possible tsunami. The issue, though, is the government cannot do it alone. What you do during the earthquake is dictated by your knowledge and practice. The government will not be able to save you during the earthquake. It's you only that can save yourself. Okay? So with that, next slide. Be involved. Disaster preparedness should be everyone's business. If you don't prepare, you can be a victim. If you prepare, you can lead in many post-recovery actions. If you want to know more about our products, our hazard maps, our awareness and preparedness materials, if you want to follow us on the warnings that we give, we also have a Twitter and Facebook account. I follow, or our organization follow, the mantra of government. Sumunod sa matweet na daan. Okay? Maraming po salamat sa inyo.
Sir, I hope you will still, honor us with your presence. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of questions, and we would like to reserve those questions during the panel discussion. Okay, so the lead agency in charge of us after the earthquake is represented by this lady, and she is actually in charge of managing the operation and administration of the MMDA, and she holds a master's degree in development management from the Asian Institute of Management, the general manager of the Metro Manila Development Authority, Undersecretary Corazon T. Jimenez.
Pleasant good afternoon, everyone. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. We are so glad you invited us here because I was in Rome when Dr. Solidum exploded. And, the Pope was having a mass at that time. And the only thing I could do for all of you is pray for Metro Manila. The residents of Metro Manila, we are now 12 billion plus 2 million visitors. So if it happens during the day, if it is a work day, 12 million po tayong nandito sa Metro Manila. The business people already had their summit May 20 and 21. They're also very scared about this. So I'm glad everyone is talking about this now. And actually, Dr. Solidum was saying, kung hindi ko pa nilabas ang atlas, not everyone will be asking, not even asking, So we are now creating a lot of awareness, especially to our people in the marginalized and those who are in the riverways. They are the most vulnerable. And we think we should be doing it very quickly because the chairman, Francis Tolentino, has announced that July 30, I don't know what date is, July 30, what day is that? It's a Saturday? It's a Thursday. Okay. We will do it from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. So everyone must be very much part of this. And the palace has already said that we should all be participating. Because we had difficulty doing it citywide. Some of the business people wouldn't even want to be part of the drill. So this time, are we all ready to be part of this drill? Okay. Dr. Solidum, explain all the hazards. I must have experienced myself all the hazards. Earthquake, when I was 5 years old in Mindanao. Okay, so I experienced that. We had that in the 50s. We were sleeping for 30 days. Doon lang po, sa ilalim ng bahay. Sa tabi ng bahay because our house was destroyed. Flooding, fire, I have experienced that. Especially so at MMDA, we are the first responders, so we would be on top of this. I will not be the one who will tell you the preparedness of MMDA, but I just like to keep on emphasizing that we are preparing. As early as today, yesterday, 2 days after I have arrived from Rome, the chairman already instructed me, call all the 84 barangays who are on the west and the east valley fault. 84, mind you, but people came yesterday, 350 of them. So they brought their barangay kagawa. So that was a disaster for me because I did not have enough food to feed them. Okay, disaster na po yun. And then today we went to Tomana just to show the people what is this earthquake simulator that they will experience the intensity. So we might be going to some of your barangays and you will experience. But if you cannot go to that barangay, we have a stationary earthquake simulator if you just want to experience the intensity of the earthquake. June 1, we will be starting June 1, we will be going to all the barangays, those who are affected. And then June 2, we will have the Rescue Skills Olympics. We will test the skills of our rescue people from the 17 local government units. June 3, internally, the MMDA will test again our Oplan Yakal, which Ryan will explain later. What is Oplan Yakal? June 5, we will also again have another drill. So those are just some of the announcements of the chairman that you have read on the papers, but watch out for them in your respective areas. This is really just so important now. Well, I was in business before, and I couldn't care less what the government does. But this time I am in government, and this is my first time in government. Ito na po ang pinag-uusapan. And Chairman Tolentino is saying the 3 Ps that you should be doing. Director Solidum has his own recommendations, but the chairman is saying, please plan, prepare, and practice. What is the practice? Is the drill in your specific companies. And hopefully all of you have a BCP. The general will be speaking also later. Maybe you can share yung atin pong area business continuity management. We would like to share this with you, that you cannot be just by yourself as an institution. You should also do it in the area, especially for the industrial parks. Okay? So I'd like now to give Ryan Castañeda, who is with our Public Safety Division. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting our agency to be part of your joint efforts. I will just be presenting the preparedness activities of our agency, as well as how the resiliency is ongoing on the development as we took our efforts as the lead agency of the Metro Manila Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. There is no doubt that the impact on the public health of this, this is very timely. They said that the today headlines will be the tomorrow's breaking news. And as I have heard earlier, Metro Manila is starting to develop the paranoia. And for us, this is really not new to us. And since MMDA handles them, so this kind of endeavor, so DRR or disaster risk reduction has been our lifestyle professionally. So given the limited allocated time for me, so let me just go to the presentation. I hope this works. Dr. Solido has already discussed this earthquake generators that we have in Metro Manila. So the Metro Manila Earthquake Impact Reduction Study, that is the study conducted by JICA, PBOX, and MMDA way back 2004, we're only focusing on 3 scenarios. There are 18 earthquake generators in Metro Manila, but we're focusing on these 3. So the scenario 8 refers to the West Valley fault line, and now our major worry is the strong ground shaking, which could result to a massive structural damage throughout Metro Manila. There's also another scenario which we have the Model 13, the Manila Trench, which could induce an tsunami from 2 to 4 meter high. And another one is the Model 18, which is the East Valley fault line. We as the MMDA, we recognize of this effort. We take a lot of, we have been, Metro Manila has a lot of concerns, but MMDA did not neglect that our activities will continue to support the needs of Metro Manila people or Metro Manila citizenry with regards to disaster risk reduction and management. These charts just give you some idea. This is part of the result of the Myers, the Metro Manila Earthquake Impact Reduction Study. This shows some details on the locality. Actually, as much as possible, we don't want to take a look at this number. This gives us the idea the damages or the casualty as a result of the studies. And the main goal of the MMDA is to reduce the numbers in this findings. And this also goes to give us the idea which locality requires more attention, that we need to empower this community and take a massive effort on the preparedness level. Let's also take a look at the impact on the lifelines. Metro Manila, we said this is in the center of the government, the economy. So impacts on our lifelines has these results. A damage on our water system, about a break of 4,000 points in the water distribution lines, and then the risk of damage on the Ipo and the Angat dams, which is the main feeder of the La Mesa Dam. Imagine if this could happen today where the water level of La Mesa is at its most critical. Okay. Another is power interruption. From the previous disaster that we have experienced, so that the role of power supplies plays a very important role on disaster management. This helps us to reach more on a wider ground and to become more effective. Another is communication. So communication is very important. As much as possible, we need to have a rapid damage assessment so we can provide the most appropriate intervention after the disaster. Communication, let's just put an emphasis as much as possible. After a massive earthquake struck in Metro Manila, let's avoid using our telephones within 15 to 30 minutes. This is very important.